Hi, everyone. Are you usually a good decision maker, but are currently wrestling with a decision that's difficult to make? Or have you always had trouble making decisions and feel stuck on a decision right now? Well, the good news is whether you are decisive or indecisive in making decisions concerning your personal life or career, there is a secret to decision making that we're going to unpack in today's conversation. This secret will help you make decisions easier, leading to the best relationships. First, let's talk about those of you who frequently have problems making decisions when you come to life's crossroads and are faced with a challenging decision. Believe it or not, the level of difficulty in reaching a decision will depend on how much of a people pleaser you are. Let me say that again. The level of difficulty in reaching a decision will depend on how much of a people pleaser you are. Why is this important? Because people pleasers tend to struggle more because they prefer to shy away from confrontations and feel more comfortable taking the path that pleases others. In other words, people pleasers tend to accommodate others first, but by putting the needs of others above their own. While this approach to decision making may be harmless at times, sometimes it could become problematic when the decision to please others compromises their own peace of mind. On the other hand, to the other extreme, if you're not a people pleaser, then you may become too self absorbed and myopically focused on creating a tunnel vision. People at this extreme tend to be self serving. They dismiss the ideas and opinions of others and thereby fail to make well rounded decisions that benefit all concerned in a win win for all. Instead, failing to consider other people's feedback and opinions will create unbalanced relationships that lack respect, teamwork, and synergy. In Wikipedia, the term synergy in relationships is defined as, quote, synergy in relationships refers to the idea that two individuals can achieve greater fulfillment and growth together than they could separately, creating a supportive and enriching partnership. This concept emphasizes mutual understanding, emotional safety, and collaboration, allowing both partners to thrive and enhance each other's strengths. Whether in personal or business relationships, the best decisions incorporate this kind of synergistic team approach. And like the people pleasers at one extreme, the non people pleasers at the other extreme will also end up forfeiting their peace of mind and sabotaging the relationships when there's a lack of a balanced approach to their decision making. So, what's the secret to making decisions that result in the best relationships? The secret to making decisions that yield the best relationships are decisions that bring you peace of mind. Let me say this again. The secret to making decisions that yield the best relationships are decisions that bring you peace of mind. And having peace of mind is key to knowing you made the right decision. This applies to every decision in both your personal life and or career. I would like to share with you something personal that happened to me this week, which is a perfect example to illustrate today's topic of making decisions. So I just want to stop right here and talk, spend a few minutes talking about what happened to me this week. Out of the blue, I had a call from my boss in my previous job before I retired about 2.5 years ago. My previous boss had texted me and said that he had an unfortunate situation where one of his employees had quit and so he was in a dire need of someone to answer phones and take care of some of the work that he had. And and keep in mind, I had retired, 2.5 years ago, and that job was very, very demanding and stressful. In that position, I was the operations manager, so I basically ran the whole show. And so I knew of the workload, and while it paid well, it was not a situation where I really needed the money. And plus I've been retired for the last 2.5 years, and so I really had to think long and hard whether I wanted to get involved again. And what made the decision even more challenging to think about was the person that was in that position prior that left. was not able to did not do a good job, I should say. And so there were some things in the accounting aspect of the job that was not properly taken care of. Okay, so it was not just coming back to, it was just not a decision to come back to a job, but having to also clean up the potential problems and issues and mess that has been created for the last 2.5 years. So it was definitely something that I had to think about. At the same time, I am very fond of the owner of this business. We actually work very well together, and so it was very difficult because I did feel sorry for him, and part of me really did want to help him out. However, how I came it was definitely a decision that was difficult to make. And so what I wanted to talk about was how I came to my decision. Well, I actually thought about it for a couple days, and during these 2 days, I wanted you guys to realize that I noticed I did not have a peace of mind. Okay. I was starting to feel stressed. My body felt it. Okay. At the same time, I wasn't able to sleep. I had trouble sleeping for a couple nights. So by the second night, I was wide awake, didn't sleep at all. And in the middle of the night, I actually got up from my bed, sat down in the living room by myself in the dark, and actually thought about things. And how I came to my decision is that I realized I have to listen to the response of my body. And because I wasn't able to sleep the last couple of nights and felt internal stress, the decision was fairly easy. And I realized at that moment, sitting there in the dark, that I can't go through with this. I have to decline. And because um, here's a funny thing I just want to say as a side note. For those of you who have retired, you can relate to what I'm saying here. And for those of you who are still working, this is still worth mentioning for you to think about. When I was working, I I I was really stressed, right? And it's not until I retired that I was able to catch up on my sleep, and realize that I was more stressed than I felt when I was working. And the other amazing thing was that the people around me that actually made comments after I retired that I looked so much relaxed and less stressed. And it was more than one person, by the way, that said this. So when I retired, I also realized that I didn't know how stressed I was until I actually retired. So, sometimes when you're going through things, if you're going through a very stressful time and you actually start getting used to it, right? It starts feeling normal and you start normalizing things that probably shouldn't be normal. So that's something I learned after I retired. So at this point in my life, entertaining the idea of possibly going back to work again, it was easy decision to make once I realized after a couple days I was not sleeping very well. I was completely stressed out internally. So the decision at that point was fairly easy. And so going through that this week, it made me realize that how many of us go through life, right, with our blinders on, and we're used to being superwoman or superman, and working hard, and being a workaholic, which by the way I was when I was previously working. I was a workaholic. And how we get used to that, right? When we get used to that level of stress, where it becomes normal to us, right? And so um after being retired for 2.5 years, I realized that I cannot do this. My body was screaming stress. Okay, so how this relates to today's conversation is that for those of you who are in the middle of trying to make a decision, or if you're agonizing about a decision, my advice to you and my recommendation is listen to your body. Your body won't lie. Your body has a system of its own, and it will let you know the answer. Okay. And obviously, if your body is feeling stressed, you will know it. And that's your answer. The best decisions are ones where you have a peace of mind. Okay. And when you're trying to make a decision, and as you think about the decision, even that in itself is very is a telltale sign. Okay, because as I was that night before I made this decision, I was looking online at the accounting for that company and seeing what a mess it was. And as I was scrolling through the pages, I could feel this tension in my heart, right? I felt sick to my stomach seeing the mess that has, in the accounting part of it that hasn't been taken care of. And then actually imagining all the work I would have to go through just to get caught up in this business. So, and that's very reminiscent of what I went through when I first started working for him. I want to say 8 years ago, 7 to 8 years ago. It was also a mess back then, and it took me a few months to actually get caught up. And so, um, assessing and evaluating the current situation, I, I, it appeared to me that it would take longer to get caught up because the situation was even a greater mess than the previous time when I first started working for him. So anyway, to make a long story short, I not only was I not sleeping, but while I was going through and thinking about things and looking at the actual business aspect of it, I was not feeling good. From my stomach wasn't feeling good. My mind was very, very confused, and I felt just exasperated. So for those of you who have trouble making some decisions that you're struggling with, you're just agonizing, take a step back, take a deep breath, and actually listen to how you're feeling. Feel what you're feeling and acknowledge it. Okay? And that's your decision. If you're thinking about something that you want to make a decision on and it's causing you all this angst, and you're feeling stressed, or whatever negative emotion that's not bringing you peace of mind, then that's your answer. Okay? And on the other hand, if you're thinking about a decision that brings you joy and happiness, and you're actually excited of the potential of this decision, and the positive things that can be gained from this decision, and you're feeling good about it, then the decision is probably going to be easier to make, and you'll feel, because you feel comfortable, the answer will probably be yes, right? So I just want to share that with you because I think many of us overthink things, myself included. I think we all tend to overthink things and make the decisions more difficult than need be. So we just listen to our body's response and how our mind is responding. If everything is based on peace of mind, and so I truly believe, and I want to pass on to all of you, that the best decisions made are when you have the peace of mind over that decision. Okay. Some of you who keep making poor decisions with undesirable outcomes may be making them unaware of possible learned destructive patterns of behaviors from childhood. Folks, if you have never experienced true peace, it would be difficult for you to know or recognize what having peace of mind is and what it feels like. And without knowing what it's like to have peace of mind, you will unfortunately continue to repeat familiar, toxic, unhealthy behaviors and decision making that will not be in your best interest or for your highest good. The good news is it's never too late to heal your childhood wounds and learn self love, find happiness from within, and discover the joy of having a peace of mind. And so I just want to stop here. And so, pertaining to what I just shared with you, because the last 2.5 years, I have had a peace of mind. So I was very familiar of what peace of mind feels like. So it was very easy to ascertain the difference when I started, thinking about this other decision to go back to work. And so because I had that comparison, it was fairly easy for me to realize that I was not at peace with the thought of having to go back and work again. Okay. And so the key here is, if you have always had trouble making decisions and you seem to have always fall into the trap of making a bad decision that leads you to toxicity and behaviors and destructive relationships, that's a red flag, folks. That's a red flag that you probably would be in your best interest to seek counseling so you can heal those childhood wounds and trauma that you're familiar with because of childhood, that's continually causing you to make poor decisions that lead to poor outcomes and stress. Okay. And so those of you who need to heal, you probably are not too familiar with what peace of mind really feels like, nor do you value it. Okay. When you constantly live in a state of perpetual turmoil, it becomes your norm. Okay. And this starts all the way back from childhood, right? If you grew up in a family where you've used to repressing your emotions long enough, it becomes the norm. Okay, so when you're used to just people pleasing and accommodating others and neglecting your own needs and living in a constant state of stress, you think that's normal. And long enough, years of living under those conditions, you really don't have a clue what peace of mind feels like, and it won't feel familiar to you. Okay, so you'll continually gravitate situations that are familiar to you to that of your childhood, and that's why those of you who are continually um, repeating patterns, toxic patterns of behavior, it's because that's something you're familiar with from childhood. Okay. When it comes to extremes of people pleasers and non-people pleasers, they typically have been traumatized during childhood to the extent they have become accustomed to living in chaos and in a dysfunctional environment. They grew up internalizing toxicity and thinking it's normal, so they subconsciously gravitate towards unhealthy relationships that feel familiar to them from their upbringing, which is what I just said. Through counseling, you will heal your unresolved childhood wounds and learn self love and attract healthier relationships. Peace of mind is something that can't be taught but only experienced. Practicing self love is like hitting a reset button on your computer, and in time, the new default of familiarity and norm in your mind will be replaced with peace instead of chaos. Once you become familiar with peace and experience the joy of having a peace of mind, you will then set boundaries to proactively and intentionally protect your mind, as well as make decisions that support your peace of mind. In summary, the secret to best relationships is making decisions that honor your sovereignty and peace of mind. Peace of mind needs to be fiercely always protected so you can live your best life by making the best decisions that ultimately lead to best relationships. As you journey through life, whatever crossroads you come to, and whatever challenging decisions you are faced with, remember to always let your peace of mind be your guide to a path of best relationships. Okay. So folks, I hope you can resonate with this. If you like this video and you know people that you think could benefit from this video, please click like and click share. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do, so that this way you can be posted of all my future videos. If you have any comments that you'd like to make, or any other insights that you'd like to share with all of us, please put that in my comments below. We all can learn from each other, so I welcome any comments that you have. Okay? And so, folks, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, bye.